Hi, this is Cindy with Studio Kitsch Design. When I create themed or seasonal brush sets, it makes me a bit sad to think I'll be limited to a certain time of year when using them, so I try to find unexpected ways to use them. And so for this video, I'll use my snow globe brushes, normally used for Christmas or winter, to create a domed terrarium. Okay, let's get started. I've already created a 10 by 10 inch document at 300 pixels per inch, and I've installed the free color palette for this tutorial. Okay, the first thing I want to do is change the color of my background. So let's open the layers and then tap on the background layer and then choose the really pale minty green color from the color palette. And next, let's grab black from the color palette. And now I'll get the tall snow globe brush from my snow globe brushes, and I'll go ahead and stamp that on my document. And I want it to be a fairly good size so it takes up a good amount of space on my document. Then I'm going to tap the move tool and try to center it as best I can. Next, I'll grab white from the color palette and then use color drop to drop color into the highlight of the globe. Then in the layers panel, let's go ahead and tap the plus to create a new layer. Grab black from the color palette. And next we'll need a mono style brush. I'm going to use the Get in Line brush from my Letterland brush set, but you can use whatever you have. And we just want to draw a circle. We can use quick shape to draw a perfect circle. This creates the little handle for our dome. And then get the move tool and position it. Try to center it as best as you can. And I think it needs to be a little bit bigger. And then you can erase any of the excess that extends down into the dome. Okay, next I'll create a new layer and then drag that down to the bottom of our layers panel. And then I'm going to choose the kind of goldish brown from the color palette. And then back in the snow globe brushes, I'm going to choose the Snow Scatter 3 brush. Then in the layers panel, tap on the dome layer to open the menu and then choose select. Then tap automatic and then tap inside the dome to select it. Then back in the layers, select the blank layer and set the brush size to about 3%, and then just start adding dirt to your terrarium. Then get the darker brown from the color palette and go ahead and add a little bit of that. That just gives it some depth. And then you can erase any extra dirt. And as you can tell by creating a selection of our globe, we kept the dirt inside of our globe and it didn't extend beyond the edges. Okay, if you zoom in, you can see that there's a little bit of a line between the globe edges and the dirt. So we just need to get the move tool and enlarge that a bit. Okay, we need another new layer, and then let's drag it to the bottom of our layers. And we'll need the really bright green from the color palette. And now for the plants for our terrarium, I want to go ahead and cheat. We could just draw them, but I'd rather just use my one-line brush set, so it will save me a bunch of time. So the first one I'm going to use is the leaves number 6, and I'll just stamp that, and then I want to get the move tool and flip it horizontal. And we'll need a new layer, and then let's get the kind of a medium green. Doesn't really matter which colors you use. And I'll grab the leaves 8 brush and then go ahead and stamp that. And I'll get the move tool and move that into position. I kind of want it to hang off a bit off the right side of the globe, or outside of the globe, I guess you could say. Okay, and now we can just start dropping in color using color drop. Now in the layers, tap on the globe layer to open the menu, tap select, then tap on automatic, and then tap inside your globe to make a selection, then tap invert. Now in the layers panel, choose the leaves we just added. Double tap your Apple Pencil to invoke the quick menu and tap cut. Okay, we'll need another new layer. And then let's grab a medium dark green from the palette and the Leaves One brush from the One Line brushes. And then I'll go ahead and stamp that and get the move tool and move it into position. Now I'll just use color drop to fill in the leaves. Now in the layers panel, go ahead and duplicate that layer. Tap on the move tool, tap flip horizontal, and then reduce the size of it and move it over to the left. Now in the layers panel, tap on that layer to open the menu and choose Alpha Lock. Then in the color palette, choose a lighter green. Now back in the layers, tap on that layer and choose Fill Layer. I want to change the color of the leaves on layer 5, and let's grab a lighter green from the color palette. And then I'll tap on that layer and choose Alpha Lock and then Fill Layer. Since we have Alpha Lock turned on for our leaves, let's go ahead and add some shading. So grab a green that's a bit darker than our leaves, and then the Snow Scatter brush from the Snow Globe brushes at about 2 or 3%. And then just add some subtle shading to the edges of your leaves. I just really like how adding shading gives it texture and depth. Okay, now back in the layers, I'm going to tap on the dark leaves layer and choose Alpha Lock, and then choose the darkest green from the color palette, and then go ahead and start adding some shading to these leaves. And again, I just really love the texture. I guess it's really not that subtle, but I really just like how it gives it some texture and depth, really, especially when you're looking far away. Let's hop back into the layers panel and choose our final solid leaves and grab a medium green from the color palette, and then go ahead and just start adding some shading. Okay, let's go ahead and add a new layer at the top of our layers panel, and then grab a monoline brush, and let's grab the lightest red from the color palette, and I just want to draw kind of a half circle shape, but it's going to be the top of our mushroom. And then just use color drop to fill it in, and you can use the eraser to perfect it. And we'll need another new layer, but then let's drag it down below the mushroom top and get the lightest cream color. And then I'm just kind of drawing a sideways oval shape. That's the underside of our mushroom. Then we can use the eraser and the brush tools to clean it up and perfect it. And now let's go ahead and draw the stem of the mushroom, if that's what it's called. I'm not really sure. I'm not up on the technical terms of a mushroom. And then we can go ahead and use color drop to fill that in. And I think it's a little thick, or at least thicker than I want the stem to be, so I'm just going to erase it so that it's a little bit thinner and gives more of the illusion of being a tall, skinny stem. And I'm going to reshape the underside of the stem a little bit, just using the brush and eraser tools. And next we'll need a new layer. Make sure it's above your mushroom stem, and then add a clipping mask, and then get the kind of gold color from the colors. And I'm going to use the Letterland Triple Threat 2 brush, and you'll see what I'm going to do here in a minute. You could of course draw these lines, but again, I'm all about cheating and using brushes in unexpected ways. And then just use the eraser to perfect that. That looks good. I'm going to lower the opacity to about 37%, and then I'm going to get the smudge tool and just kind of soften the edge so it blends into the rest of the stem a bit better. Love the smudge tool. Okay, so that looks good. Next thing we want to do is create another new layer and make sure that it's between the stem and the lines so that it automatically clips the layer. And we'll use the snow scatter again for shading. And I think I have the size at about 2% because I want to make sure to be able to add a little bit more fine detail. And you can, of course, make it bigger or smaller. Okay, and then I'm going to use the smudge brush again, or the smudge tool. And I'm just using a monoline brush. Okay, and once you're happy with that, go ahead and go on the layers panel and lower the opacity. And I think it needs a little bit more shading, so I'm just going to add some more. And it helps, at least it helps me to zoom out a bit to see how it's looking from a distance, and then of course I'll smudge it a little bit more. All right, let's create a new layer above our mushroom top and then create a clipping mask. And then I'm going to get the medium red from the color palette and just add a little bit of shading. Can't see it too well, but it's there. It's very subtle. Just gonna add a little bit of shading, and then I'm gonna get the darker red and add some more pronounced shading. And I just really love how it brings it alive. And once you're happy with that, go ahead and create another new layer on top of the shading layer, and then create a clipping mask. Choose the light cream, and then we're just gonna, oops, we'll also need a mono style brush, and then just start adding some circles, and they don't have to be perfect. In fact, they look more whimsical when they're not perfect. I think the hardest part for me is just deciding where to put them and how many there should be. But once you're happy with your circles, let's hop on into the layers panel and swipe right on all of our mushroom layers and group them together. And then we can also group the globe and the handle together, and also the leaves layers together. That will keep everything nice and organized. All right, let's go ahead and create a new layer at the top of our layers panel and make sure we still have the cream color. And then I'm just going to draw a mushroom shape. And then add a stem, fill it in with color drop, and let's go ahead and draw another smaller mushroom top. This is more of an oval shape. And then go ahead and create the stem. I'm not at all happy with the second mushroom I did, so I'm going to get the freeform selection tool, make a selection, and then cut. And just start over again. So get my monoline brush, draw another mushroom top, and then the stem, and fill it with color drop. Okay, let's create a new layer right above our two mushrooms, and then add a clipping mask and get the kind of gold color, and we need the snow scatter brush again, and make sure it's at 1 or 2%. Needs to be really small so that we can add detail. Yeah, so 1%. Go ahead and add some shading to both of our mushrooms, and then use the eraser to clean it up a bit so that the shading is only on our stems. Let's hop into the layers panel and lower the opacity, and then use the smudge tool to blend in our shading. And I'll add a little bit more shading and then smudge that in as well. And let's add a little bit of shading to the right side of the mushroom top, and then smudge that in as well. And now let's get the snow spatter 2 brush and then just kind of dot that a few times on each of the mushroom tops. Let's hop into the layers panel and group the 2 mushroom layers together, and then get the move tool and move our 2 little mushrooms closer to our big mushroom. And then hop back into the layers panel, tap on our mushroom group and choose flatten. Next, tap on the selection tool, draw a freeform selection around the smallest mushroom, get the move tool and rotate to the left to add a bit of whimsy. Okay, let's hop back into the layers panel and create a new layer, and then let's choose white and grab the cobbled brush from the Letterland brush set, and let's just start adding some little white pebbles around our mushrooms and on top of our dirt. And then go ahead and grab the eraser tool and just start erasing any of the white pebbles that extend over the sides of the globe. Let's hop back into the layers panel and create a new layer, and then grab the tan from the color palette and choose the solid label from the snow globe brush set, and go ahead and stamp that on the base of the snow globe. Create another new layer, and then choose gold from the color palette and grab the label frame from the snow globe brush set and stamp that right on top of the solid label. Get the move tool and move it into position. And now I'm going to create a new layer above the solid label, and then grab black from the color palette, and using the marker brush from my Letterland brushes, I'm just going to write terrarium because I can't think of anything cute or clever to write right now, but it works. But it's a fun place to put a favorite word. You could put the date, whatever you would like. Okay, one last finishing touch. Let's grab white and create a new layer above the handle for our globe, and use a mono style or the marker brush works fine, just to add a highlight to our little glass handle. And our terrarium is done. And I hope that shows you how you can use holiday brush sets or themed brush sets for so many other things besides what they're intended for. And here's another illustration using the snow globe set by Barbara Howenstein. Barbara calls it a sand globe, and I love it. It's so cute. I wanted to see what other brushes I could use to create terrariums, and I ended up having a lot of fun using my geometric shapes brushes to create some hanging terrariums. And I used my hand stitch brushes to create the chains that they're hanging from. I'll be creating a short tutorial on how to create these and putting it on my Instagram stories and blog, so keep your eyes open. Well, I hope you've had fun with this tutorial, and please tag Studio Kitsch Design on Instagram. See you next time.